This is the Compounding Change Podcast, sharing stories of small but meaningful changes that compound into amazing impact. Brought to you by Shannon Davis and DavisCompoundingChange.com. Change happens fast. Take advantage. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Cambridge Investment Research and Retirement Planning Advisors are not related to DavisCompoundingChange.com or this podcast. Now, here's your host, Shannon Davis.
Welcome to Compounding Change. I'm Shannon Davis, here to help you unlock the power of small actions for big personal and financial results. Whether you're a firefighter or just looking to improve your life, join us for tips and stories that make a difference. Let's dive in. We're here today with Cindy Farnham. Hi, Cindy.
Hello, Shannon. Good morning.
Good morning. We met about 4 years ago, I guess, and I just remember your story about change and that you started out as a dental hygienist and you'd done that for years, and then you were starting to have health problems. And I just thought that story encapsulates everything that compounding change is about. So
thank you, Shannon. I always appreciate when I get to share my story. I guess I always hope that when we share our stories, there's some type of a ripple effect that somebody might get some kind of words of wisdom from that may help them in their lives. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, because I think I have a pretty powerful story. At least it was powerful in my life. You know, I was a dental hygienist for 30 years, and I loved my patients. Yeah, that was such a beautiful place for me for such a long time. I built beautiful relationships with them over those 30 years. But then sometimes things change, and the culture changed within that office. And it was an interesting dynamic, because my operatory, where I was with my patients, that was my happy place. But outside of that became a culture that I would say hurt my spirit and my soul. And I think that people can sometimes relate to that all of a sudden where they were valued and seen, things shift or change. And I was no longer valued and seen in the way that I felt that I should have been. But I stayed there. For 4 years. I say longer than I should have at the end, because I loved my patients so much. And people would say to me, how did you do that? And I said, well, because that was my happy place. There was so much joy and beauty in those relationships. But then I would step outside of there, and it would be a very difficult emotional situation for me. And so I like to say to people in general, stay open and stay curious. And, I stayed in that place out of fear, absolutely out of fear of so many different things. And I think that's why oftentimes we don't make positive changes because of that. But there's so much joy on the other side of fear. But also in that situation, and I understand a lot more about this now too, that my health started to spin out of control. And it's all about mind, body, and spirit. It really is. And we have to look at psychologically where we are as much as nutritionally and other factors too in our health. And I think we can't discount what stress does to us over that period of time. And so I just got to a point I just started not to feel well. And, I had low energy. I wasn't sleeping well. I had some depression and anxiety. I had brain fog, which was scaring me a bit, and then all of a sudden I went to the doctor just for a regular check, and my blood pressure went to 195 over 101. Wow. I mean, that was really scary. And, I'm at the cardiologist's office, and he's saying, hey, I only have one other person your age and your size with blood pressure like that. And so I was praying for answers, and I was so grateful that we had a certified personal trainer that came into our dental office and shared just an easy way. It's a company that I now help so many people with. It's a company called Juice Plus, that they just put fruits and vegetables in a capsule or a gummy. And it totally made sense to get the nutrition. I was taking many vitamins, and that wasn't working. So I started to get the nutrition in my body. And within really 3 weeks, my energy level picked up. The depression and anxiety went away. I started sleeping better. The brain fog cleared. And 8 months later, I was able to come off of all of my blood pressure medication and be dismissed from that practice. And at that point, I knew that there was a far bigger plan for me than being where I wasn't supposed to be. And I know, Shannon, that you do financial planning. And we know that, health and wealth are so important in our lives. I like that there's a saying that says, a man that has his health has 1,000 dreams. One that does not have his health has one, right? And I was very scared at that time, and I was suffering. And I've just been so joyful to find a reason to help people with that. But I know that that's what you do too with the financial parts, because it's when we can get to the other side in our lives, and when we start to do an action step, that can start to create more peace, right? And know that we're doing something as a compound effect that's going to be good in our lives. And I love that you get the chance to do that with so many people as well.
Yeah. Did you lay out a plan? Did you, speaking of the little actions that we do, did you lay out a plan, or did one thing just flow into the next? How did that transition take place for you?
I think that anytime that we really want to get to the other side of something, and there was such a flame underneath me to get me out of that situation, that the grit and determination, that why is so important in our life. And I knew that this was for me, my purpose. It was a ministry for me to see others start to get better and heal through whole food. And I get to see God everywhere, and which I love. And that propelled me. It was a much bigger calling than I thought. I knew that I was there for a purpose with my patients, but this was a much bigger calling than that. So I was very determined. And I think anytime that we want to make a change in our life, we have to be determined. You have to be ready to do whatever it takes to get to where you want to go. So I would get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I would work on my lunch hour. I would work at night, and I just started helping as many people as I could, and was so fortunate because I ended up being a qualified national marketing director. They flew me into the company, and right after that, yeah, thanks. I came back, and 2 weeks later I retired on my 30th anniversary, which I didn't even script that part of it. And from being a dental hygienist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And then
awesome.
I went on to become a national marketing director with my company. And this all started when I was 50. To think that I started a new chapter at that point in my life, I think that's another good interesting thing, is that it's never too late to switch gears. Sometimes I think we think we're stuck in a situation, and that's where we're going to be forever, no matter what. And hope is a huge, big deal. And I think when something else comes in, but we do have to grab onto it. We can't let it go by. The opportunities can be there, but you have to make a decision that it's something that you're really going to focus on, learn more about, and develop that skill set so that you can be the catalyst for good and even a better change for other people. And one of the things I love now is that I do get to lead a lot of people. And knowing that culture that I was in, I get to lead with kindness. And that's a huge, big deal for me. I want everyone to feel that they're part of a community that's a beautiful community, that they're safe, that they're valued, and that they're seen in that community.
So even if you weren't, even if you didn't write down on paper, this is my first step, this is my second, or I'm going to do this little thing, from what you just said, you were working your business and making those steps to have that when you hit your 30th. Not that it was necessarily set for that date originally, but you spent time. How long did you spend before you transitioned and retired from dental hygienist?
Probably 6.5 years it was that I was working, that compound effect, just always doing what was bringing me joy and bringing joy to others, and continuing to do that, to not step out of line. But it was my passion and my excitement that kept me going. I think when something comes into our lives that we know that we can be a catalyst for such good change in other people. And for me, I feel like too, I, again, was suffering, and that I know that there are a lot of other people that are suffering. And I know that I am a lifeline for them as somebody was for me. And I think about, where would my life be health-wise had I not known about this, had I not been, continuing to be able to create myself in a more vibrant way 11 years later, it probably would have gone in a much different direction. And for that, I'm so grateful as well. And I can't help but help other people, because I know how it felt to be there and to be scared.
Yeah. Well, from your story though, it's not just, I mean, it's all encompassing the health gains that you got from specifically Juice Plus, but also the mental health of being in a new career, that you felt valued, that you felt cherished. I work with a lot of firefighters, as you know, and they retire young typically. And I think that that's pivotal, that you spent 6.5 years planning for the next career, but not just firefighters, anybody, you could go from one career to the next and evolve.
Yeah.
So that's great. But it sounds like you're valued with the
Yes.
job that you do now that you weren't getting
Yes,
before.
absolutely. And we know that there's basic things that we need, and growth is one. And I was able to grow in a different way. Actually, after 30 years, I was kind of bored in some respects. I was looking to grow, and I'm so grateful. I grow all the time and learn. But I'm also, yes, I have in an area of that I'm significant, that I am valued and seen. I now train and other people. And I love this part of my story, because my greatest fear was public speaking more than death, right? And I've now spoken in front of hundreds and thousands of people because I can't help but share a message that I feel in many ways that they need to hear. And it's kind of getting past that, is knowing that you can do something for someone else, that it's not about you. I don't stand up there and think, what are they thinking of me? I feel like I have a message that I can share to help others. And that is always the thing that drives me. And it's interesting, and that it was my greatest fear. And now when I go to speak, there's no fear at all. It's an amazing transformation that I made in my life. But there again, it's that getting past something to get to the other side of joy. And I am grateful that I was able to move past that fear. But I think I did that because I was really excited to look outside myself to other people. And I feel like it's when we're looking at ourselves, it's harder to do that. But when we can find something that we know is good, that's meaningful, then we can become more of a better version of ourselves than we thought that we could have. So yeah, I think it's important. And for me too, Shannon, you mentioned that the retiring, it's beautiful for me, because when I did retire, 8 years ago, I retired into something. I think that's really important. I don't know what I would have felt like. I mean, the culture got so bad that I had no choice. At that point, I knew I needed to leave. But I stepped into something that was really great, that gave me purpose and meaning in my life, and that just kept me going. And I think that's really important, that we set ourselves up for that, for knowing that what is our next chapter, whatever that might look like, and financially too, Shannon, being able to have the financial parts of that will also set us up, giving us an opportunity to do many other things.
And do you have a time frame that you plan on continuing this career? Or, I mean, is there something that's set in your mind of my next step is, or my next evolution is?
That's so interesting. I'm 61 years old, but I can't see where I can absolutely retire from what I do, because there's so much joy in what I do, and I can't help but be there for other people in many different ways. And there's so much joy that comes into my life. What I get to do, I get to weave it in and out. So that's a beautiful thing. I think someday I will be in Florida. I'll be in a beautiful retirement community, but I will still be helping. And it's that helper's high that you get, that I think will always keep me, and knowing that I really just can't help but be there for people. And I love coming along beside them in many different ways, changing their health picture, giving them other opportunities like I had myself. And it's because someone did that for me, I feel like it's a calling that I have on my life. And because of that, I don't think I'll ever truly 100% retire. There's just so much that I love about what I do, but it might transition to something a little bit different down the road.
Right. Maybe fewer hours, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fine. But you do find time for yourself, I hope, right? And you have budgeted that time in your schedule, and it's hard to define. I enjoy what I do too. So it's hard to define where one thing starts and the other thing ends. And I see that with you and your job.
Absolutely.
And career.
I was locked into a 9-to-5 type of situation, and I know what that's like for 30 years. Now I get to go to meetings, meet other people, weave things in and out, get to create my own schedule. And, I'm on many Zooms, but I love that once you've been locked in like that and you know that there's something else that's out there, it's just a beautiful way to live. There's sometimes I wish that I would have known this a long time ago, but I would have not had those relationships and that chapter in my life. I think every chapter that we have in our life teaches us lessons and gives us a lot of beauty in that part. But there's times that chapter is ready to close and you need to move on, which I'm grateful that I did. But I'm always will be grateful. I still, to this day, have beautiful relationships with a lot of my patients that I had before, and because I truly cared about them.
So do you have anything that you want to share of if you just met somebody, what message do you like to get out there? And it's like we've talked about before, it's a little bit here, a little bit there. And I know that you don't shove things down anybody's throat. So obviously it's a systematic message that you're getting out there. What do you want to share?
I think just in life in general, one of the things I think about in different parts of my life is if we always do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we always have. So many people are stuck in certain areas of their life. There's so many areas that are life balance. But the problem is that they're not willing to make like little shifts and changes. I know myself too that I'm up exercising now again every day, and I'm exercising at night a lot of nights too. I wanted to make some other shifts in my life. And I know that if I kept doing what I was doing, I wasn't going to get to that next goal that I had personally. And I feel like if everyone could just see that there's that beautiful compound effect, either in a positive or a negative way. And that if you make small, simple changes over a period of time in the right direction, good things can start to happen, but you have to be faithful to that, and you have to trust that process that you're doing something good.
I think you've read the book too, right?
Yeah.
The Compound Effect.
Yes.
I love that. I love
By
that.
Darren Hardy, one of the best.
Yes, it's wonderful. Everybody should have it on their bookshelf. I've shared it with many. I probably don't have my copy. I had a couple copies here, but probably don't have my copy, loaned it out. But it is something that everybody should read, and it just impacts all areas of our lives, not just financial, not just health, but all areas, friendships too.
That's beautiful. I like that. That's a really good way to think about it as well. It's beautiful. And I know, Shannon, that I've always respected you. I think, you're amazing in that you do exercise, you eat great nutritionally, you look at financial ways in your life, and you're doing those things that you're helping others with as well.
Thank you. Gotta walk the talk, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I really, really appreciate it. I always love talking with you, Cindy, and I haven't gotten to connect with you as much as I'd like to, but I always love seeing you and hope to see you soon. I really appreciate you taking time out and last minute to talk to me. So
thank you, Shannon, and thank you for allowing me to share my journey and my passion. That's always a beautiful gift. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, Cindy. So thanks for joining us for Compounding Change. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others, and keep making those impactful changes and take charge of your future. Until next time.
This has been the Compounding Change Podcast with Shannon Davis. If you're a firefighter or first responder, you know that change happens fast. Life changes, finances change, compounding change. Shannon Davis is a certified retirement counselor who understands the needs of Ohio Association of Professional Firefighters members. Click on daviscompoundingchange.com to learn more. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA, SIPC. Cambridge Investment Research and Retirement Planning Advisors are not related to daviscompoundingchange.com or this podcast. Please note that investment involves risk, and no statements made in this recording are indicative of future performance. Thank you for listening to the Compounding Change Podcast. Compounding Change is brought to you by Shannon Davis and daviscompoundingchange.com.